Nicky, just 5 weeks off, the big 4 days at the Cheltenham Festival, so the sort of last opportunity you've got to get these, I don't want to call it preference, but to get a pre-race in to many of your big guns. Yeah. Kicking off, of course, with Jonbon in action at Warwick at the weekend.
Yeah, the plan is Warwick. It always was the plan. I did put him in the game spirit at Newbury as well, but talking to Keith Otterson there, he's a bit worried that the ground could be quick enough. They've had frosts this week, and unfortunately they can't water. You're pushed to water during frosts anyway, but they're not allowed to water at this time of the year. So I think Newbury will give that a miss. Warwick's a novice anyway. He's been around there. Not that that's of really importance, to be honest with you. It's just to get another bit of experience into him before March. It's a good race for him.
I mean, he's looked brilliant in those two chase runs and wins so far, notably last time in the Henry VIII. I mean, is there any sort of chink to his armour? He just looks so good. I mean, when you just watch him running the race, he's very relaxed. Sort of Aidan can put him anywhere he likes. He can make the run and he can sit behind. Looks very uncomplicated.
He is, because he was funny when we started with him. He was a very, very sweaty sort of buzzy sort of, not buzzy, but he was a fidgety sort of horse. You always felt he was a little bit on edge. And he was a very free sweater. We took him to the races a couple of times without running him on purpose. We just went for a walk round and brought him back home again. But he's really got stuck into his routine now and nothing worries him too much. So hopefully it's the right place to be, yeah. He's in good form.
And obviously it's still early days, but he's favourite for the Arc at the moment. A lot of people saying that you maybe could even stretch him over further if you wanted in something like the Turners. Is that still something in the back of your mind that you may consider stepping him up in ship at Cheltenham, or just see what happens at the weekend?
I don't think he will at Cheltenham. But he could do one day, yeah, definitely. But he is quick enough. It's interesting because the horse of Simon Munir's, the one at Leopardstown the weekend, he beat Dysart Dynamo, and he's the obvious candidate. And we met in the novice hurdle at Aintree last year. And I mean, Jonbon beat him ahead that day. So technically there's nothing between them. But then a hurdle race round Aintree to a fast run 2 mile novice chase round Cheltenham are two different things. So a lot of things can happen on the way round. It's right to say Jonbon, his jumping's been very pleasing. We were schooling him the other day, and he met a fence. There was no stride on it at all, but he was incredibly clever. He just sort of danced in front of it and pop it away. He's clever as well as brave, so hopefully he can do most things.
And hopefully the patience that you've given him will pay off, because he's been here for 2.5 years now, and it's been very much a sort of slowly approach. And was that because in his younger days he was, as you sort of said, a little bit sort of on his toes?
Well, yeah. He only came here in the spring of his first year. He had a bumper. He had all his novice hurdles. He had a full novice hurdle season last year. He just got beaten by Constitution Hill. And then he won at Aintree, and this year he'll have only had 3 runs before Aintree, but before Cheltenham. But to be honest with you, those are the only races he could have run in. There's been nowhere else to go. So hopefully he might be able to move on to Aintree as well.
OK, let's stick with your runners at Warwick at the weekend. And Theatre Glory's been a real tough mare for Canter Banter racing.
Yeah.
She's going to head to the mares' race?
She will. I mean, she's got Love Envoy in there, and that would be a concern, because I think she is a very good mare. She's one of the best in the country, and one that would definitely be coming into the mares' race, I would imagine, at Cheltenham. So it'll be a stiff task for her, but she's a mare that always progressed. This time last year, she progressed a long way, and we'll see what we can do. She's in good form there.
What is always a good race is, of course, the Old Schweppes at Newbury at the weekend. You've got No Ordinary Joe entered in that off a mark of 1:39. Carries, of course, the Silks of JP. How is he coming into Saturday's race?
Very good indeed. I'd quite like to. First Street, we're pretty sure we'll keep back for the Kingwell hurdle at Wincanton on Saturday week rather than carry top weight. The only thing about First Street carrying top weight would you'd stop the weights going up, which doesn't help no ordinary Joe. It would have helped to keep them compressed a bit, but you can't just run a horse like First Street just to help no ordinary Joe. He's in good form. He won last time. He was good. This has always been the plan. JP's got 2 or 3 runners, so I think he's a strong hand anyway. But we will only have the one. I mean, Impulsive One is in there. If the race was going to cut up because the ground was quick, he could easily take part because he loves fast ground. But no ordinary Joe is the obvious one.
And you said this has always been the target for him. The race is you've got a good record in it. It's got an illustrious roll of honour. What was it that you saw in No Ordinary Joe? Do you think he could still be quite well treated off his mark?
We thought he was a smart horse last year, but everything went wrong from the beginning to the end. He had all sorts of silly problems. But at least this time, touch wood, we've had a good, clean run, and so he comes in really good shape.
What sort of horse do you think you need then to win that type of race? I suppose you need a horse who's slightly under the radar, but also quite battle hardened.
Well, you'd like to have £7 up your sleeve, but no doubt somebody has. It's very difficult getting a handle on these Irish horses, and some of them are better handicapped in England, so they're actually thrown in. We know that. We learned that from Cheltenham last year and the year before. They were so well handicapped. There's nothing we could do about it. But I mean, No Ordinary Joe's pretty exposed, but he could be improving.
Nicky, we've seen Mr. Coffey's name on the race card on quite a few occasions this season, but he keeps getting withdrawn due to the ground. But it often turns out quite soft at Uttoxeter, and I believe that's a plan to go this weekend, all being well.
Yeah, I've just got to get a run into him now. I'd like to have gone to Newbury. There's a nice novice handicap chase there. And that would have been lovely, but it's the important thing, he has to go left-handed. So one's been fairly limited along the way finding races for him. At least Uttoxeter's going to have a cut into ground, which he loves, and it's left-handed, obviously. Newbury would be even nicer, but unfortunately the ground would be against him now. So we're going to go to Uttoxeter. This is the stepping stone for him is towards the National Hunt Chase, which is now 3 miles 6 instead of 4 miles, and go there. So consequently, which is an amateur riders race. So Derek O'Connor, who is probably the most experienced rider in England and Ireland, is actually going to come over and ride him on Saturday. Having a get-to-know mission so we're well prepared for March.
And he's probably a horse that does take a bit of knowing, doesn't he? As we saw when he ran last year. You've got to sort of just almost get in there on the line. Would that be quite fair to say?
It would. Sam Wayne-Coyne actually was the Kim Muir ran in last year. Yeah. But, he's pretty straightforward, actually. He's a good ride, touch wood, he jumps well, so... he's been in good form and looking forward to it.
OK, sticking with this weekend's runners, Luccia, it'd be great to see her back in action at the race down at Exeter.
Yeah, actually, Ludlow was off. He was in a very ordinary mare's novice hurdle at Ludlow. She's only had one run over hurdles, which was in a listed race at Newbury. She then had a bit of a dirty scope, which took a bit of time to clear up. She's back in very good form. As I say, Ludlow's off anyway, so I could have taken a very soft option and just run her in what was going to be a weak mare's race. But there is a listed race for boys and girls at Exeter, and it's always turned out to be a good race and a good trial. And, I think she deserves a chance in that, and that takes her on, hopefully, to the mare's novice hurdle.
And that was my next question. Is that pretty much set in stone, that's where you're going to go for the mare's novice, or is there any sort of thought in the back of your mind that you may just look at the Supreme?
She'd have to win at Exeter by 20 lengths to look at the Supreme.
Which is entirely possible on what we saw at Newbury last time.
It'd be wonderful, but it's a good race on Sunday, so let's try and concentrate on winning, not worry about how fast she wins it.
Okay. But she's in great form. You're pleased with her, and you know
she's been working great. Yeah.
Does she show you a lot of quality at home,
Oh,
or is she
does,
quite laid back in her work?
No, she's in good form. Yeah.
Okay. Walking on air, you've got him in as well at Exeter.
Yeah, I'm rather frustrated with myself really that we haven't won a race with him this year. I think he's a good horse. I love him. He's going to be some chaser next year. But he gets 3 miles. His mother got 3 miles refinement. So you'd think that's the right thing to do. And I was just thinking, well, we might as well go per temps. He's in at Newbury again. The ground will be quick enough for him at Newbury. So hoping it's decent ground at Exeter. He's got to finish in the first 4. I'd really like to see him winning a race because he ought to be winning the races he's running in, to be fair. So anyway, he'll go to Exeter, hopefully finish in the first 4, and that'll bring him into the Pertemps final.